AA for crashing Christmas after my daughter was cut out of the family photo? I'm Jolie, Hannah's mom, and my daughter used to call me over things so small they barely counted as problems. A recipe that came out weird. A Christmas ornament she found in a thrift store. A fight with a zipper on a dress that somehow turned into both of us laughing for 10 minutes. After she married Eric, those calls got shorter, quieter, and spaced farther apart. She still said, everything is fine, but she said it the way people say it when someone is standing close enough to hear. Hannah was 32, warm in that unguarded way that made strangers tell her their problems in grocery store lines. She used to be direct. Not rude, not dramatic, just honest. If something bothered her, she said so. If she was nervous, she laughed too loudly and then admitted she was nervous. But after Eric came into her life, she started shrinking around the edges. At first, I blamed normal marriage adjustments. Everyone learns new rhythms. Everyone compromises. I told myself not to be the kind of mother who treats her adult daughter's marriage like a room she can just walk into whenever she wants. So when Hannah stopped dropping by without checking with Eric first, I noticed, but I stayed careful. When she stopped buying small things for herself because, as she put it, Eric thinks we should be smarter with money, I noticed, but I told myself budgeting was not abuse. When she changed outfits before dinner with his parents because Eric said, that's not really appropriate for my family, I noticed, but I told myself maybe his family was formal. The first time I really worried was at Thanksgiving the year before. Hannah had reached for a second slice of pie, and Eric's mother Marlene smiled across the table and said, sweetheart, are we soothing with sugar again? Nobody yelled. Nobody slammed anything. That was what made it slippery. Hannah's hand froze above the plate. Eric gave a soft laugh and said, Mom's just teasing. Marlene tilted her head. In this family we tease because we love. Hannah put the pie server down and smiled like she had swallowed a stone. After that, I started listening differently. When I asked if Eric was kind to her, she said, he's under a lot of pressure. When I asked if his family treated her well, she said, they're just close. When I asked if she was happy, there was a pause long enough for me to hear her breathing. Then she said, I'm fine, Mom. Really. I'm just tired. I remember looking at my phone after that call and whispering to the empty kitchen. Tired has a sound. Scared has a different one. Still, I did not storm in. I did not accuse. I did not demand that she leave him. I kept the door open. I sent her little messages. I asked if she wanted coffee. I told her she could come by any time. Sometimes she answered right away. Sometimes her replies came hours later, stiff and polished, like someone had edited them. Christmas Eve was supposed to be quiet for me. Hannah had told me weeks earlier that Eric's family was hosting their big dinner, and it was just his side this year. She sounded embarrassed when she said it. That's okay, I told her. We can do breakfast Christmas morning. There was a pause. Maybe, she said. Eric said we might be tired. I did not like that answer, but I let it sit. That night I made soup, put on an old movie, and pretended I was not watching my phone. At 7:18 it buzzed. Hannah, Mom, please don't come tonight. I stared at it. I had not planned to go. I had not been invited. There was no reason for that message unless someone thought there was a chance I might show up. Before I could type back, the message disappeared. This message was deleted. I sat very still. A deleted message does not always mean danger. People send the wrong thing. People panic. People change their minds. But from my daughter on Christmas Eve, it felt like a hand tapping from behind glass. I did not call her. If she was free to talk, she would not have deleted it. If she was not free, my call might make things worse. I put on my coat, grabbed my keys, and drove. Eric's parents lived in the kind of house that looked professionally decorated even when it was not. White lights wrapped the porch railings. A wreath hung on the front door with a bow so perfect it almost looked angry. Through the front windows I could see warm light, a tall Christmas tree, and people moving around in matching sweaters. I parked 2 houses down. I told myself I was being ridiculous. I told myself I would see Hannah laughing, feel foolish, and drive home. Then I looked through the window. Hannah was not laughing. She was carrying plates from the kitchen while everyone else sat around the fireplace. Marlene stood near the mantel, a glass of wine in one hand, directing the room like a stage manager. Eric's father, Grant, sat in an armchair looking comfortable and useless. Eric was beside his sister Paige, both of them smiling at something on Paige's phone. Hannah moved carefully like she was trying not to make noise. Her hair was pinned back, but loose pieces had fallen near her cheeks. She wore a green sweater I had bought her 2 years earlier. I remembered how excited she had been when she found the matching earrings. That night she kept tugging at the sleeves. On the mantel, stockings hung in a neat row. Marlene, Grant, Eric, Paige, Noah. Hannah's stocking was at the end. Smaller. Different material. It looked newly added, like an afterthought bought from a drugstore at the last minute. I could hear muffled voices when someone opened the front door to let a guest out. Cold air carried Marlene's voice. Hannah, don't hover. It makes you look nervous. Hannah stopped near the dining table. Eric said, Mom's just trying to help you fit in. No one corrected him. No one looked uncomfortable. Hannah nodded and went back toward the kitchen. I stayed in my car another 5 minutes, hands locked around the steering wheel, because I knew the difference between anger and usefulness. Anger would let me kick the door open and ruin the night. Usefulness meant I needed to see enough to understand what I was walking into. The gift exchange began. They gathered around the tree and Hannah sat on the edge of the couch, her knees pressed together, hands folded in her lap. Paige opened a scarf from Hannah and lifted it by 2 fingers. Oh, Paige said, smiling. That's cute. Homemade-ish. Hannah leaned forward. I thought you said you liked that kind of pattern. I do, Paige said. It's thoughtful. In a budget way. Marlene laughed softly. Don't be sensitive, dear. We're laughing with you. Eric was sitting right there. He did nothing. That was when I opened my car door. By the time I reached the porch, they were lining up for photos. Marlene clapped her hands. Everyone by the tree. We need one before Noah gets frosting on his sweater. Noah, Paige's 10-year-old son, bounced into place with a cookie in one hand. Hannah stood beside Eric at first. She looked relieved to have a simple job. Stand, smile, get through it. Then Marlene touched her arm. Let's do one with just the actual family first, sweetheart. The sentence was said so gently that an outsider might have missed the blade in it. Hannah stepped back. Eric adjusted his sweater and stared at the camera stand. Paige waved her over and held out a phone. She can take the picture, Paige said. That way she's still included. Hannah's smile stayed on her face, but it was not attached to anything. Her eyes shone under the tree lights. I opened the front door before she could take the phone. The room froze. For one clean second, nobody moved. Hannah turned first. Her face went pale, then red, then pale again. Mom, she whispered. Marlene recovered faster than anyone. She gave me her hostess smile, the one I had seen at weddings and family dinners, and once when she insulted Hannah's haircut without using a single harsh word. Jolie, she said. What a surprise. It is, I said. Eric stepped forward. What are you doing here? I did not answer him. I looked at Hannah. Where is your coat? The question landed harder than if I had shouted. Hannah blinked. What? Your coat, I said. Where is it? Marlene's smile tightened. This is a family gathering. Then start acting like one. Paige made a small sound, almost a laugh. Wow. Eric's face changed. Not anger yet. Calculation first. Hannah's fine, he said. You're overreacting. I asked where her coat is. Hannah looked toward the hall closet, then toward Eric, then down at the floor. Grant cleared his throat. I'm sure it's in the closet with the others. Good, I said. Let's get it. No one moved. That was the first time the room told on itself. I walked to the coat closet and opened it. There were wool coats, a puffer jacket, 2 children's jackets, a red scarf, and a garment bag. Hannah's coat was not there. Eric came up behind me. She probably left it in the guest room. She gets scattered when she's emotional. I turned around, then stopped touching her things. His eyebrows lifted. Excuse me. Where is her purse? Hannah's hand went to her side like she expected it to be there. It was not. Where is her phone? I asked. Eric's eyes flicked to the side table near the fireplace. There it was, face down beside his drink. I walked toward it. Eric reached faster. I looked at him and my voice stayed level. Do not touch her phone again. The room went silent enough that I heard the fireplace pop. Marlene stepped in, still smooth. Hannah is very sensitive, and we try to be patient. You walking in like this is not helping her. Hannah whispered. Mom, please. I softened my voice without taking my eyes off Eric. Come with me for 1 minute. Eric said. This is between me and my wife. No, I said. Her coat, wallet, and phone are not between you and your wife. They are hers. Marlene laughed under her breath. This is exactly what I was afraid of. You encourage her to see cruelty everywhere. Hannah flinched at the word encourage. That told me a lot. I picked up Hannah's phone and handed it to her. Her fingers closed around it like I had given her oxygen. Guest room, I said quietly. Hannah followed me down the hall. The guest room smelled like cinnamon from a plug-in warmer. There was an overnight bag on the bed. Hannah's purse sat behind a stack of folded blankets on the chair, half hidden under a decorative pillow. Her coat was in the corner, not hung up, not easy to grab. One sleeve was caught under a storage bin. Hannah shut the door behind us and immediately started crying without sound. Tears slipped down her face, but her mouth stayed tight, like even sobbing was something she had learned to do politely. I'm sorry, she said. I told you not to come. I put my hands on her shoulders. You warned me. There is a difference. It's not as bad as it looks. Hannah. She looked away. I did not ask her to explain everything. I knew better than to make a scared person defend the truth while still standing inside the place that scared her. I said, Do you want to leave tonight? Her face crumpled. I don't know. That is an answer I can work with, I said. We're going to collect your things. Not argue. Not explain. Collect. She wiped her cheeks with the heel of her hand. Eric will be so mad. He can be mad in a room you are not trapped in. She shook her head quickly. I'm not trapped. I looked at the purse hidden under blankets. I looked at the coat shoved in the corner. I looked at the phone she had not been holding when I walked in. I know, I said. So we are going to make sure everyone else knows it too. Her phone lit up in her hand. A notification flashed across the lock screen. Joint checking transfer. $4,800 pending review. Hannah stared at it like it was in another language. What is that? I asked. She swallowed. Eric said he was moving money so we'd look more stable. Stable for what? She shook her head. I don't know. His mom said married people need unified finances. Eric said I get confused about money. I felt something cold move through me. Hannah was not careless with money. She never had been. She was the child who counted birthday cash twice and kept receipts in envelopes. When she was 16, she made a spreadsheet to save for a used car and cried when she found one under budget. Do you have access to that account? I asked. Eric handles the passwords because I get anxious. That was not an answer. It was a confession she did not yet know how to name. Before I could ask another question, the door opened without a knock. Noah stood there in pajama pants and a sweater vest, holding a toy truck with one missing wheel. Aunt Hannah, did you see my blue car? Grandma said you cleaned up because company was coming. Hannah wiped her face fast. I haven't seen it, buddy. Noah looked at me. Are you Aunt Hannah's mom? I am. He nodded with the seriousness of a child accepting a fact. Then he said, Grandma said Aunt Hannah has to sign the Christmas papers before Uncle Eric gets in trouble. Hannah went completely still. I crouched slightly. What Christmas papers? Noah shrugged. The ones in the present bag. Grandma said not to touch because they're not fun papers. A woman's voice called from the hall. Noah. Paige appeared behind him. Her smile dropped when she saw our faces. There you are, she said too brightly. Come on, Noah. Adults are talking. Noah looked confused. I was just asking about my car. Paige put a hand on his shoulder and steered him away. Now. The door stayed open. Marlene's voice floated from the living room. Hannah, sweetheart, we still need pictures. Hannah whispered. Christmas papers? I said nothing. I walked to the chair, pulled out Hannah's purse and handed it to her. Check for your wallet and keys. Her hands trembled as she opened it. Wallet. Keys. My charger is missing. We'll find it. I stepped back into the hall. The living room had shifted into that strange frozen cheer people use when something ugly has happened, but nobody wants to be the first to admit it. The fire was still glowing. The tree was still shining. The tripod stood ready. Paige had her arms folded. Grant was staring into his drink. Marlene came toward me with a smile that did not reach her eyes. "I think we all need to lower the temperature," she said. "I agree." "Good. Then perhaps you should apologize to Hannah for upsetting her." I looked past her. Near the dining room, tucked behind a side chair, was a large red gift bag with gold tissue paper. A little tag hung from the handle. "For Hannah." I stepped around Marlene. Her hand twitched like she wanted to stop me, but she remembered the audience. "Jolie," she said, sharper now. "That is not yours." "No," I said. "It appears to be my daughter's." I pulled the tissue paper aside. There were no ornaments, no sweater, no candle set, no harmless Christmas gift. Inside were printed documents clipped together, pages thick enough to make my stomach tighten. There were colored signature tabs along the edges. Hannah's name appeared on the top page. So did Eric's. So did a lender's name I did not recognize. On a sticky note in Marlene's handwriting it said, "Family Financial Planning. Sign before brunch." Hannah had come up behind me. I felt her stop breathing. Eric moved fast. "That is private." I took one step back, held up my phone, and photographed the top page before he reached me. "Jolie," Grant said, finally standing. "There's no need for that." "You're right," I said. "There should not be." Eric grabbed the bag, but not before I saw enough. Loan application. Authorization forms. Consent to pull credit. Joint liability language. Not something a person should sign between dessert and family photos. Not something hidden under tissue paper and shame. Hannah's voice was small. "Eric." He turned toward her with a practiced softness that made my skin crawl. "Hon, don't do this here." "Do what?" "Get worked up because your mom wants a scene." Marlene stepped in front of the bag. She should be grateful she has people willing to guide her. She came into this family with very little understanding of long-term planning. Hannah whispered, "You said it was marriage paperwork." "It is," Eric said. "It affects our marriage." I looked at him. "So does fraud." His eyes flashed. "Watch it." "I am." Marlene's polite face slipped for half a second. That was all I needed to know. She had not expected me to understand what I was seeing. Paige crossed her arms tighter. "Oh my God. No one can say anything around you people. It's paperwork. Adults sign paperwork. Adults read paperwork," I said. Marlene turned to Hannah. "This is what we discussed. This is why involving your mother makes everything harder. She fills your head with fear." Hannah stared at the bag. "Why were there signature tabs?" Eric said. "Because you panic over forms." "No," Hannah said, barely audible. "I panic when I'm rushed." Marlene's voice cooled. "You were not being rushed. We have talked about this for weeks." Hannah looked at me. "Weeks?" The deleted messages. The shorter calls. The way she asked before buying anything. The bank transfer. The missing phone. The code out of reach. It was not one bad dinner. It was a system. I did not explode. I wanted to. I wanted to say every ugly thing rising in my throat. But rage would have helped them. Rage would have let Eric say, "See? This is why Hannah is unstable. Look at her mother." So I put my phone in my pocket and said, "Hannah, get your coat." Eric stepped in front of her. "This is my wife," he said. Hannah stopped. There it was. Not the woman I love. Not my partner. My wife. Like a title. Like property. I looked at him. "Move." Marlene gasped. "You are making a scene in my home on Christmas Eve." "No," I said. "I walked into one already in progress." Eric pointed at me. "You're destroying my marriage." "No, Eric. I'm interrupting what you were doing to it." The room went still again. For the first time, Hannah did not look at him before moving. She walked around him and went down the hall. Eric followed. I followed Eric. In the guest room, Hannah was pulling her coat from the corner. Her breathing was fast. She had her purse over one shoulder and her phone in her hand. Eric stood in the doorway. "Han, stop. You're embarrassing yourself." She flinched, but she did not stop. You're tired, he said. You always do this when you get overwhelmed. She grabbed her charger from behind the bedside table. Why was my charger in here? You left it. I didn't. Hannah. That one word came out low and sharp. I saw her shoulders fold inward from habit. I stepped beside her. Use full sentences, I said quietly. Say what you need. She looked at me, then at him. I want my coat, she said. Eric blinked. I want my wallet and my phone, she continued, voice shaking. I want my keys. I'm leaving tonight. Han, don't do this. I'm already doing it. His face changed then. The gentle husband mask did not vanish completely, but it cracked. You're going to run to your mother because of a joke and some paperwork? Hannah zipped her coat. I'm not signing anything. You don't even know what it is. That is why I'm not signing it. I almost smiled. Not because any of it was funny, because that sentence sounded like my daughter. Marlene appeared behind Eric, the gift bag clutched in one hand. Hannah, sweetheart, she said. You are proving exactly why we worry about you making adult decisions. Hannah's mouth opened but no sound came out. I said, Hannah signs nothing without her own attorney. Marlene looked at me as if I had spit on her floor. Attorney, she said. What kind of mother teaches her daughter to bring lawyers into a marriage? The kind who finds loan documents hidden in a gift bag. Grant had followed Marlene down the hall and looked deeply interested in the carpet. Marlene's smile returned, thinner than before. You are being dramatic. These are planning documents. This family helps each other. Then let Hannah take them to a lawyer. Eric said. No one said she couldn't. Hannah looked at him. You said if I delayed again, your mom would know I didn't care about the family. Eric's jaw tightened. Marlene said, because family commitment matters. So does informed consent, I said. Paige called from the living room. Can we not do this in front of Noah? I turned toward her. You handed my daughter a camera after excluding her from the family photo. Do not discover concern for children now. Paige's face flushed. Oh, come on, she said. It was a joke. No, Hannah said. Everyone looked at her. Her voice was quiet, but it was there. It wasn't a joke. Paige rolled her eyes. You always make it awkward. Hannah gripped her purse strap. You made a group chat without me and sent the picture from last year where I was half cut off. You said, maybe this year she'll learn where to stand. Paige's face went white. Marlene snapped, Hannah. Hannah flinched again, but this time she stayed upright. I saw it, she said. Eric left his tablet open. Eric stared at her. You went through my tablet? I laughed once. I could not help it. That is your concern? He pointed at me again. You see, this is what she does. She twists everything. Hannah reached into her purse and pulled out her keys. I'm leaving. Marlene moved toward her. Give me a moment with you. No, I said. Marlene ignored me and reached toward Hannah's purse. I stepped between them. Touch her purse and the next call I make is to the police non-emergency line. The call after that is to a lawyer. Marlene froze with her hand in the air. Grant finally spoke. Let's not involve police. I looked at him. Then do not give me a reason. Eric's voice turned cold. You're going to regret this. Hannah looked at him then, really looked at him like she was seeing not the man he had promised to be but the man standing in front of her. I already do, she said. It was not loud. Did not need to be. We walked back into the living room together. Noah was sitting on the floor beside the tree, turning his broken toy truck over in his hands. He looked scared and my heart hurt for him too. Children always know more than adults think and less than adults wish. Hannah stopped near him. I found your blue car earlier, she said softly. It's under the dining bench. Noah looked relieved. Thanks. Marlene made a strangled sound, like even Hannah being kind was inconvenient. At the front door, Hannah paused. Her eyes moved to the mantel, to the little stocking at the end, to the tree, to the tripod still waiting for the perfect family photo. Marlene said behind us, You'll regret humiliating this family. I opened the door. Cold air rushed in. That family photo mattered more to you than my daughter breathing, I said. That is humiliation enough. We stepped onto the porch. Hannah's hand shook so hard she dropped her keys. She bent to pick them up, but I got them first. "Do you want me to drive?" I asked. She nodded. That was all. No speech. No dramatic goodbye. No final insult tossed over the shoulder. Just my daughter walking down the steps in the cold, holding her coat closed with one hand and her phone with the other, like she was afraid someone would still take them away. In the car, I turned the heat high. Neither of us spoke for 3 blocks. Christmas lights passed across Hannah's face in red and green streaks. Her breathing came unevenly. Then she bent forward, pressed her forehead to her knees and sobbed. I pulled into an empty parking lot and waited. I did not touch her until she reached for my hand. When she did, I held it. "I thought if I could just be easier," she said, voice breaking, "they'd stop." I swallowed hard. People like that do not stop because you get smaller. She cried harder. I didn't know how bad it sounded until tonight. "You did what you had to do to get through it. I let them make me stupid." "No," I said firmly. "They worked very hard to make you doubt yourself. That is not the same thing." She turned her phone over in her lap. "Eric made me keep location sharing on. He said married people shouldn't have secrets." "Did you have his location?" She shook her head. "Okay." She gave a sad laugh. "Okay. One step at a time," I said. "Tonight we get you warm. Tomorrow we protect your name." She looked at me then, exhausted and young in a way that made my chest hurt. "I don't know if I'm ready to leave him forever." "I did not ask you to." "You didn't." "No. I asked if you wanted to leave tonight." She stared out the windshield. "I did." "Then tonight that is enough." At my house she showered while I made tea she barely drank. She slept in the guest room with the lamp on and her phone charging beside the bed. Twice I heard her get up and check the window. I did not tell her she was safe, as if saying it would make it true. I simply locked the doors, left the hall light on and kept my phone beside me. The next morning was Christmas. It did not feel like Christmas. We sat at my kitchen table in pajamas, coffee mugs between us, a notebook open to a clean page. Hannah looked like someone recovering from a fever. Her face was puffy from crying. Her voice was rough. But when I asked if she wanted to stop, she said no. "Today we protect your name," I said. She nodded. We started with passwords. Phone, email, banking, cloud account, social media, the shopping account Eric used for household points, the shared calendar, the phone plan login, anything he might use to watch, lock, reset, or access her. Some passwords failed. Hannah stared at the screen. "That's weird." "It says changed 3 weeks ago," I said. She looked away. We recovered what we could. For what we could not, we wrote it down. Then we checked her bank app. The joint account had more activity than she understood. Transfers labeled household. Payments to Eric's parents. A withdrawal that made her press one hand over her mouth. "He said that was for insurance," she whispered. "Write it down." She took the pen. At first her handwriting was shaky. Then it steadied. We pulled her credit report. There had been recent hard inquiries she did not recognize. She stared at the screen. "I didn't approve those." "I believe you." She covered her face. "I feel sick." Then we pause. "No," she said. "Keep going." So we did. She froze her credit. We saved screenshots. We put every document in a dated folder. I had already taken photos of the papers in the gift bag, and I sent copies to Hannah. She forwarded them to a new email account Eric did not know about. By noon, Eric had called 17 times. Hannah did not answer. Then the text started. "Eric, you embarrassed me in front of my family. Eric, your mother manipulated you. Eric, you need to come home so we can talk like adults. Eric, this is why I didn't want her involved. Eric, you always spiral and make me the bad guy." Hannah read them without responding. Then Marlene texted in the family group chat. Hannah showed me the screen. "Marlene, we are heartbroken by last night." We tried to include Hannah in a loving family discussion, but Jolie arrived uninvited and escalated a private matter. "We are praying everyone calms down and remembers what family means." Paige added, "It was honestly scary. Hannah was fine before her mom showed up." Grant wrote nothing. A cousin responded with a thumbs up emoji, then deleted it. Hannah looked at me. They're going to make everyone think I'm crazy. Not everyone. How do you know? Because people who are sure they did nothing wrong do not hide paperwork in gift bags. She looked at the group chat again. Her fingers hovered over the keyboard. What do I say? That depends. Do you want to say anything? She thought for a long moment. Then she typed. Hannah. My coat, purse, phone and charger were not accessible when my mother arrived. I was asked to sign loan-related documents I had not reviewed with an attorney. I am not discussing this privately. Please do not contact me except in writing. She showed it to me before sending. That sounds cold, she said. It sounds clear. She sent it. The chat went quiet. Then Paige wrote wow. Then nothing. A few minutes later, Eric texted privately. Eric, you hid my coat? Really? That's what we're doing now? Hannah's hand shook again, but she typed back. Hannah, my mother handed me my coat. You hid it. She sent it before she could lose courage. I saw something change in her face. Not healing. That would take longer. But a crack of air entering a room that had been sealed too tight. The lawyer's office returned our call the day after Christmas. We had a consultation by phone first, then in person 2 days later. Hannah wore a plain blue sweater and kept twisting her ring until the lawyer, a calm woman with silver glasses, slid a tissue box closer without commenting on it. Hannah explained the paperwork as best she could. I stayed quiet unless Hannah asked me to fill in a detail. That mattered. I had not dragged her out so I could become the new voice speaking over her. The lawyer reviewed the photos, the bank notification, the credit inquiries, and the texts. Do not sign anything they send you, she said. Forward it here first. Change passwords today if you have not already. Pull and save your credit report, which you did. Document all shared accounts. If there are financial products opened without your consent, we address those separately. Hannah asked, can they make me responsible? For something you did not sign? No. For something you sign under pressure and do not understand? That gets messy. Which is why you do not sign. Hannah nodded slowly. The lawyer continued. Also, do not meet with Eric alone right now. If he wants to discuss property, finances, or separation, it goes through counsel or happens with a witness. The word separation made Hannah close her eyes. The lawyer softened her voice. You do not have to decide the rest of your life today. You do need to protect yourself today. That sentence stayed with Hannah. Eric tried everything over the next week. First he was angry, then apologetic, then angry that his apology did not work. He sent flowers with a card that said, let's stop letting other people come between us. Hannah dropped the card on the kitchen table and said, other people? Then she laughed. It was not a happy laugh, but it was hers. He emailed a scanned copy of the paperwork with a message that said, this is all normal. Mom found a better rate if we moved quickly. Hannah forwarded it to the lawyer. Marlene texted Hannah long paragraphs about loyalty. She used words like maturity, gratitude, commitment, and concern. Every message sounded like it belonged in a church bulletin until you read it twice and realized each one was just a prettier way of saying obey. Hannah did not respond. Marlene then texted me. Marlene, I hope you are proud of yourself. You ruined Christmas. I stared at the message for a while. There were many things I could have said. I could have mentioned the photo, the coat, the purse, the phone, the loan papers, the way Hannah had cried in my car until she could barely breathe. Instead, I typed one sentence. You ruined it when you made my daughter afraid to ask for help. Then I blocked her. Not because I was afraid of her answer, because I did not need it. The story did not explode in one dramatic public downfall. That is not usually how control breaks. It breaks in smaller, quieter ways. The loan plan collapsed because Hannah refused to sign, and the lawyer sent a letter making clear that all future communication about financial documents needed to go through counsel. Suddenly, Marlene's family planning became a misunderstanding. Eric claimed he had never meant to pressure Hannah. Grant said he thought everyone understood the documents. Paige deleted messages from the group chat, but not before one of the cousins took screenshots and sent them to Hannah with a simple note. I'm sorry. I should have said something sooner. Another relative left the group chat without announcing it. Someone else texted Hannah privately and said, "Your mother did the right thing." Not everyone took her side. Some stayed silent. Some acted like silence was neutrality instead of comfort. But the clean, perfect story Eric's family wanted to tell did not hold. Too many people had seen the way Marlene snapped when I touched the gift bag. Too many had heard Hannah ask for her coat, wallet, and phone. Too many had watched Eric try to turn missing belongings into emotions. Hannah did not move back. First she called it space. Then a temporary separation. Then after a few weeks she stopped correcting people who said she had left. She agreed to talk to Eric only with a witness in writing or through the lawyer. The first time he tried to corner her outside an appointment, she stepped back and said, "I'm not talking privately right now." He said, "So this is who you are now?" She replied, "No. This is who I was before I started asking permission to breathe." She cried afterward in my car. Courage did not make her fearless. It just made her move while afraid. That was enough. There were hard days. Days when she missed him or missed who she thought he was, or blamed herself for not seeing everything sooner. Days when she almost answered his late-night calls because guilt is a hook that stays under the skin. On those days I made coffee. I sat across from her at the kitchen table. I asked, "What do you want to do?" Not "What are you going to do?" Sometimes she said nothing. Sometimes she said, "I don't know." And I learned to let that be an answer too. One morning in January, she came into the kitchen holding a mug I had given her years ago. It had a tiny chip on the handle and a painted lemon on the side. She looked down at it and smiled. "I forgot I loved this mug," she said. It was such a small thing that anyone else might have missed it. I did not. A few days later, she called me from the grocery store to ask whether nutmeg belonged in the soup recipe we used to make. She already knew the answer. She just wanted to call. I stood in the laundry room with a basket of towels at my feet and listened to my daughter sound like herself again. Not completely. Not magically. Not like none of it happened. But clearly. Eric's last message before the lawyer told him to stop contacting her directly was short. "Your mother ruined us." Hannah read it, stared for a long moment, then typed back through the approved channel. No. She opened the door. She did not ask me if that sounded too harsh. She did not apologize after sending it. That night, she slept through until morning. People later said I embarrassed Eric's family on Christmas Eve. Maybe I did. Maybe I walked into their polished living room and ruined the mood, the photos, the matching sweaters, the story they had arranged so carefully around my daughter's silence. But I would rather ruin one perfect holiday photo than let my daughter disappear inside a marriage that was teaching her to stay quiet. If you liked it, don't forget to leave a comment and support the channel by subscribing. See you in the upcoming stories.